Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show, sponsored by Unibet. This is your Punchestown Festival Day 1 preview. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Quigley as we look ahead to the Tuesday at the Punchestown Festival. We're recording this on Monday afternoon, so the day before racing. It was meant to be Ed and Andy, but Andy, life has got in the way for Andy Holding, the man who can find a tip in any race you give him across any sport. So the pressure's on you to carry us through these first 2 days.
Yeah, as long as you don't ask me for Eurovision, because I know that's Andy's speciality, isn't it? He gets all these Swedish hipster songs he's got on his Spotify playlist and flags them up in advance. But no, yeah, as you say, Punchestown are here for the first couple of days to preview, and it's a pretty good action, as you would suggest. We've got a little bit of an end of a season feel, a little bit of the Willie Mullins show, part 9 for the season, but nonetheless, there are some quality contests and some bigger field kind of handicaps as well, where there's always value. So yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Ed, the first person to ever say the words Eurovision and hipster in the same sentence there. I think you've given yourself away a little bit. Are you a fan of the Punchestown Festival? You know, I think you see some stuff on social media these days of maybe does the racing quite live up to what we've seen recently when it comes to the Grand National Festival at Etait and the Cheltenham Festival? Where do you stand?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. By the nature of where it is in the calendar, I think a lot of connections would be lying if they didn't say it was a glorified afterthought. You know, you've got some horses here who are trained for Cheltenham. They perhaps rolled the dice at Fairy House again or went to Etait or whatever, and now they're rocking up here at Punchestown. As you say, it does feel like it's a little bit after the ship has sailed or after the Lord Mayor show for some of them, but nonetheless, it's a relaxed vibe, and there are some real high quality horses on display. Fingers crossed, at the time of recording, we're going to get the rematch, aren't we, of Brave Man's Game and Galopin Des Champs, where Galopin Des Champs will be warm order, but over a slightly shorter trip and potentially slightly better ground. It makes it very interesting with the Paul Nicholls runner in there. So yeah, look, you could always find a way, especially on social media, to be negative about things. I think as a general rule, it is more relaxed. You do see some funny results here by the nature of some horses have been on the go 6-7 months, and it is a case of just going to the well once too often. So that I've, like all good journalists, I don't have the actual information in front of me right now to back up my claim, but I was going through it, and there were some right old turn-ups at this meeting in previous years. I remember Roberto Goldback winning the Punchestown Gold Cup, Planet of Sound, Philip Hobbs winning it at Price. There've been a few, of course, there was absolute carnage, wasn't there? Where who was it? It was the Storyteller ended up winning when one of the horses, was it Albion Photo, got carried out and about 5 horses crashed through the wing, and absolute bedlam at this meeting a few seasons ago. So by and large, there are an upset or two on the cards. It's naturally just trying to define which ones is the fun part.
Yeah, indeed. And let's get into trying to do so. We're going to be recording an episode for every single day of the Punchestown Festival, recording Tuesday now. We're going to record Wednesday straight afterwards, so keep an eye out for that. And then tomorrow we'll record Thursday, and then we'll get back together on Thursday to record Friday and Saturday. So we these previews, because otherwise we know things can age very quickly. And our sponsors, Unibet, have a welcome offer as well for viewers and listeners to the oddschecker betting show. Money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, plus a £10 casino bonus. So make sure you check that out. And there are extra place races available with Unibet across the festival too. So the 340, the first race we're going to cover here, is one of those. So make sure you do check that out as well. Loads of really good offers from Unibet as ever. So make sure if you haven't got an account, do go and sign up for it. Use the offer code, and I'll try and lead you through the offers as we go too. In terms of the opener, and I know it's not a race you've got a strong fancy in, but I'll just run through the market quickly now. Night and Day is the 130 favourite with Unibet 4-1. She could be anything. 9-2. Nakini 13-2. Sailor V and the Model Kingdom. Walk with Paul and Lady Bank both 7-1. 14-1 bar those. This is the Mare's Novice here over 2 miles. Any views whatsoever?
Yeah, indeed. As a general rule, be against those right at the top of the market. I mean, Night and Day, big question marks to answer after the flop last time out. And Keeney, and she could be anything, are respected. And I suppose especially in the form of She Could Be Anything. Ran very well in defeat at the Champion Festival when finishing 6th in the Mares Novices. But I'll be interested in a slightly bigger price each way. There was a mare who ran in the same race at Cheltenham. That was the Model Kingdom for Noel Mead and Dennis O'Regan. Finished well down the field, but beaten so far out, it was almost too bad to be true, in my view. I think trailed home 16th the 21 runners that went to post that day. But as I said, for a mare who'd been in such good form previously, I'm prepared to be a little bit forgiving there, put a line through it, because some of her form previous to that is really smart. She can kind of replicate the run of when runner-up to Imperon Pass in the Moscow Flyer back in January. She's not a million miles away from these, I think it's fair to say. And also, you've got to factor in the course of distance form. 2 wins and a placed effort from the 3 starts over the C&D. Clearly loves it here as well. So, yeah, there's a lots of individuals in here, all with question marks. So tricky old little race to try and decipher. Stakes for minimum in my view, but the Model Kingdom, down in class, will be fine with the ground. Loves this venue. The Model Kingdom each way for me in the 340.
Yeah, 13-2 with Unibet there. There's a couple of horses that come into this one off the back of a disappointing run in that Cheltenham Mares Novice. Ladybank, another one who dead heat with Princess Zoe second time out, which is a fair bit of form. On to the second race on the card on Tuesday at Punchestown is the 4:15, the Champion Novice Hurdle over an extended 2 miles, where Facile Vega is the 4-6 favourite ahead of Diverge 130, Etait Top 9-2, Founder 50 is 14-1, 33-1. About no looking back, all of those with Unibet. And Facile Vega found 1-2 goods in the Supreme Novice, and Diverge finished 3rd in that race. So we've basically got a repeat, and Etait Top finishing 5th. So we've got almost a repeat of that race here. Do you expect there to be a mix up in terms of the order they chase home?
Good question, George. I mean, the market's suggesting Facile Vega should get the job done here. And after that air of invincibility's evaporated, hasn't it, around Facile Vega after the absolute bomb out at Leopardstown. At least the run in the Supreme showed, the horses back in working order, and coming to 2 out, you thought had pretty much the field cooked, apart from Marine National, who doesn't line up here. Kind of picked off Facile Vega at the running with a good turn of foot. I just wonder if Facile Vega could do with a bit further. That's my kind of gut feeling about Facile Vega. And at the prices, I'll be interested to play Diverge here. Again, only small. Patrick Mullins taking the ride. But, this horse created a real favourable impression when winning here back in January. Yes, it was a maiden hurdle, but didn't have to come out of first gear to win by 23 lengths hard held. And then it's interesting, I was watching a replay of the Supreme earlier, and I wonder if Patrick Mullins, if he had another opportunity to ride the race again, to use that cliche, he'd wondered if he'd get Diverge much more prominent early. I mean, the horse was held up a long way off the pace and was asked to cover a lot of ground from the rear. Now, when you saw it in real time, the first time I was there on the rails, I thought, crikey, Diverge wants further. Maybe he was just outpaced. I just wonder if they perhaps overcooked the waiting tactics with Diverge. He was flying up the hill. And he was one of the few horses to really make ground up from the rear, if you see what I'm saying. And so interesting how the tactics will play out again here with Etait Top, who I thought was the most underwhelming of those at the Champion Festival. There seemed to be no real excuses for the defeat, and wasn't able to replicate that form, which saw him looking fantastic, of course, when Facile Vega bombed out at the Dublin Racing Festival. So yeah, it's the Willie Mullins gallop. It's the replay of the Supreme, basically, about the winner. Obviously, the form's looking pretty tidy with In the Pocket coming out and dining at the top table with Aintree. That was the horse, of course, sandwiched in between all of these when finishing 4th in the Supreme. But again, it's a bit of a non-answer to you, George. I probably expect a balanced Facile Vega to win. I do think Facile Vega could do with further, and I do think Diverge still has incredible untapped potential from what we've seen so far. Good to be thrown from that maiden straight into the Supreme. Was given a very patient ride and finished 3rd, gaining on the leaders. I thought it was very good in the circumstances. So yeah, tentative play on Diverge in this one.
Yeah, interesting to see what will happen with Facile Vega going forwards. You mentioned there maybe needs further. Unibet 20-1 Facile Vega for the Champion Hurdle, 33-1 for the stayers. Presuming that keeps hurdling over the next season. Incidentally, Unibet have the most Cheltenham Festival races priced up amongst any bookie. They've basically got everything priced up now, so you can go to Unibet and find all these prices now.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, again, it's whether they go chasing or not, I suppose, is the next equation, because something like the Turner's Chase over the intermediate trip, that's the kind of thing that springs to my mind, not wishing the summer away at all. But but the serious point is, I suppose, what is Facile Vega going forward? We'll be 6 rising 7 going into the next National Hunt kind of campaign. Is what angle, what route they want to go down to. As I say, we've had no cast iron ideas from Willie Mullins, and I suppose he probably hasn't got them yet, it is fair to say. But we'll be interested if we can glean any clues in the aftermath. But all in all, my gut feeling is Facile Vega will be more effective over slightly further, and say Diverge does bring a very unexposed tag to the table for this lightly raced 5-year-old son of Frankel. And tentative selection Diverge to cause a minor upset here.
Yeah, Facile Vega 8-1 for the Turners, so that is the shortest price. Facile Vega is for a race at the festival next year. Diverge, though, the selection here at 130 for Eds. On then to the handicap hurdle, again over an extended 2 miles, where Merlin Giant is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Brazil at 11-2. Takeo 6-1. Bialystock 15-2. Telecon and Lucky Max both 8-1. Tax for Max 9-1. 11-1 Glan, and one last Tango, Path de Rue 12-1. 14-1 bar those. 5 places here with Unibet. And Ed, you got a couple against the field.
Yeah, indeed. I'm going to go 2 versus the field, and it's to say this is ultra competitive, as you would expect. You can make a case for at least half a dozen strongly, I thought, in here. But my main selection would be Takao down here, horse number 15 on your cards. Another Willie Mullins representative who, when you look at the facts, was awful at Cheltenham when sent off 3-1 favourite to win the Boodles, trailed home 19 out of the 21 that went to post. And again, as I said, there's the reactions, as I called them, where in real time I thought, well, that was absolutely useless. It's not until you watch the race back. I've now watched it back a couple of times. Takao has to go, if whatever way you want to slice it, into the pretty kind of unlucky / didn't produce the jump at the right time kind of notebook course, because Takao lost a little bit of ground 4 out, came back on the bridle, and Root was travelling really powerfully and just starting to, put it this way, if the horse pings 3 out, comes right into this, and is a major player in running, but made an absolute Horlicks of 3 out. It was all sorts of scuffling, and essentially just dropped out the picture and was eased down. Interestingly, Mark Walsh's explanation to the steward saying he felt the horse was travelling powerfully until that mistake 3 out, which knocked the stuffing out of him. And the kind of visual representation and what the jockey's explanation was do concur, I think, an ally to a large extent there. And interesting that, of course, he gets to race off his Irish mark here of 130. I think he could still be very well treated. And as I said, I think I'd take that last time out's effort with a pinch of salt. His previous form to that reads pretty well, doesn't it, when finishing 3rd in the Spring Juvenile at the Dublin Racing Festival behind Gala, Marceau and Lossiemouth. That is top-class form. And I know it's a few people on social media perhaps flagging up why Mark Walsh isn't on this time, but someone more qualified than me will probably be able to confirm it. If I believe he can't do the weight. I believe the lowest he's been able to do in the last 2 calendar years is 10.5. So to get down to 10.3 for this would be too much of a struggle, which I think almost so by default he's had to ride Brazil in this race. So yeah, Takao be my main selection. I'm forgiving type, George, and as I say, you watch that race back, he's going as good as anything in the Boodles until making a mess of 3 out. And I'm going to also at double figure price have another bet in here. Path de Row, Keith Donoghue and Gavin Cromwell. The negatives first would be the Yard are very quiet. I think they've had 1 winner in April. But I said, again, Yard form, you're only out form until you're in form. It's one of those juxtapositions, isn't it? You Yard suddenly go through purple patches. So I think you can get a little bit carried away with that form. And this horse is a winner on his only previous start of a course of distance. And we've touched upon it at the start of the show, how some horses ran almost inexplicably bad at the Cheltenham Festival. And this horse would very much be in that category because he really was on a bit of a roll coming into Cheltenham. He wasn't unfancied. He sent off 12-1 to win the county. Never went a yard. I mean, he was beaten 4 out, if you see what I'm saying. So again, it was almost so bad to be true that I take the positives out of it. If he kind of come there with a chance and then weakened out of it, and they said, well, that's kind of as good as he is, then I've been. But as I said, I'm gonna take the chance, put a line through that, because the horse has got good form at this track. He was in pretty good nick coming into the county hurdle. It was one bad run. And I think he gets the race here off a £4 lower mark than he contested at Cheltenham off 137. So if the rains keep arriving as well, that won't be a problem. Something we haven't mentioned yet. George, is there a fair bit of rain on Sunday into Monday. He softened it up. I believe it's yielding to soft at the time of recording, with a few more showers around. So if we do get it on the softer side, that is not going to be a problem for this horse who's got winning form on softer heavy. So, yeah, I just thought he was another one bad run at Cheltenham. I'm the forgiving type. So, yeah, Path de Row and Tikal are my 2 versus the field in the 450, but it is fairly wide open by the nature of what it is.
Great stuff. Yeah, that extra place from Unibet helping as well. A 5th of 5 they are for this one. And Tikal, 6-1, Path de Row, 12-1, Ed's 2 selections in that 450. If the 450 is a fairly open affair, we've got a 6-runner with a 6-runner field with a 4-11 favourite in the next, which is, of course, the Champion Chase, where we've got Energumene is the 4-11 favourite ahead of Gentleman de Me at 4-1, Blue Lord 8-1, Chacun pour soi 25-1, Magical Days just a bit shorter at 20-1, Rebel Gold is 33-1. Unibet will be boosting the price of 4 races on the Tuesday, and this is one of them. So if you go onto Unibet at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, you'll find the favourite in the 4:15, the 5:25, the 6:35, and the 7:10 all boosted. And I think we can say there's no such thing as a certainty, Ed, in this game, but we can say with some degree of certainty that if Energumene is lining up here, then it'll be Energumene who is being boosted, because comes into this hot favourite after that scintillating display at Prestbury Park.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an argument here. Energumene should be a lot shorter, in my view. Obviously, back-to-back champion chases. Again, people are already picking apart that run. Obviously, Edwardstone didn't give his running, and then the year before, Shishkin had pulled up after 5 yards, and everyone said, well, he hasn't actually beaten a racehorse yet, and all this kind of jazz coming out. And there are merits in those arguments, but the point being, as you say, this horse he's the class act. Official figures to tell you that. Unblemished record at this venue as well, which is something else to bear in mind. I've touched upon it. Coming to Punchestown at the end of the season, sometimes some horses are a little bit overcooked and they've had enough. But he's not had a hard campaign here, has he? He's had just the 3 starts. He's 2 from 2 at the Punchestown Festival, dotted up in this race 12 months ago on ground where there was a little bit of nervousness beforehand, kind of vibes about whether he'd handle. I think it was good to yielding on that occasion. He was absolutely fine with it. And then on the previous year, I think he won by best part of 20 lengths hard held in the novice race over the C&D. So no problems with trip, track, ground. Best horse in the race. So I'm flagging up an odds-on shot, but the point being, I actually thought the layers would be running for cover a bit more with Energumene. I thought maybe 1-5 might be more realistic, given I think Chacun pour soi's gone, Rebel Gold's not good enough, Magic Days won't be good enough, in my view. Essentially, it's a 3-horse race. Gentleman de Me is the inverted commas the spring horse, isn't he? Now he missed his engagement at Cheltenham, where I actually think the ground might have gone against him, but he missed it with a respiratory infection, I believe, which is the second time he's had that in his career. Comes in here. At least I suppose he's a fresh horse. He wouldn't want to see too much more rain. That would be the thing with Gentleman de Me. I mean, when he thumped Edwardstone at Aintree a year ago, it was beautiful ground. There was a lot of good in it, and he really accelerated away from them. The same as when winning at Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival when he thumped Blue Lord. Of course, the ground was on the inverted commas, the spring side, and he absolutely thrives on that type of ground. So, provided we don't get any more rain, I think Gentleman de Me, the market's got it right in that sense. I think he's the most likely to follow Energumene home. Blue Lord has become the joker in the pack here, and obviously he was one of my biggest fancies, the Cheltenham Festival. I mean, I was taking on Shishkin, thinking, right, well, we'll get Shishkin beaten. The last thing I saw was Envoy Allen coming back and Blue Lord running like his legs were tied together. But horses make a mockery of you. But the initial assumption and the consensus still is that when he simply did not stay the Ryanair trip of the extended 2.5 on the new course on soft ground, and say trailed in 8 and 9 runners. Again, though, it's just interesting to listen to the connections views and Paul Townend's explanation to the stewards. Was he felt not at any stage was the horse ever travelling. So, maybe to ascertain or say it was purely down to the trip Blue Lord failed to fire on, maybe a misplaced comment. It may just be the fact the horse just had an off day and he wouldn't have won over whatever the trip was. He just never seemed to be happy with him, according to Paul Townend. So interesting. They're coming back in distance here. On balance, it probably will suit because he can be a bit of a keen going sort, but he's got questions to answer. For all that, again, he does have good course form here. So, yeah, convoluted way of saying I think Energumene's SP could easily end up being a lot shorter than what it is now. And if the rains do arrive, Blue Lord will follow him home. The rains stay away and it dries back up to yielding by the time they come to post. I expect Gentleman to me to chase home Energumene. So, yeah, Energumene 9, probably in his peak now. It'd be interesting the early exchanges next season, whether Willie Mullins lets him and Al Fabiolo have a clash against each other or whether they duck and dive. That's probably the bigger picture point. But yeah, Energumene to beat Gentleman to me, unless we get a deluge, and I'll swap him out, put in Blue Lord.
Yeah, keep your eyes out on the weather forecast and check out Unibet, where you can find, you can see there for a without market maybe, or a forecast, of course, as well. Looking ahead to next year's Champion Chase, as I say, Unibet have the most Cheltenham Festival races priced up, and they've got Energumene as the 5-2 favourite ahead of Al Fabiolo at 3-1. So paying Al Fabiolo some serious respect there, being next to the twice crowned Champion Chase winner in Energumene. No prices in the bumper, the 6 o'clock. So the final race, because the 7:35 and the 7:45 also not priced up yet by Unibet or anyone else for that matter. But we do have the Champion Novice Chase over just over 3 miles, where Journey with Me is the 11-4 favourite ahead of Sir Gerhard at 3-1. Classic Getaway and Appreciate It, both 7-2. James de Burley is the one that we're seeing lots of money for. All blue on the oddschecker grid, 7-1 for James de Burley. Faranilli is 9-1. So a 6-runner affair for this one. Ed, how do you see it going?
Well, it's a funny old race, this, isn't it? Because this is a bit of a who's who of Willie Mullins horses whose reputations have ended up in tatters. It makes it a quite interesting viewing here, because amazing if you said at the start of the season, well, Appreciate It would have been beaten 3 times coming into the Punchestown Festival, you would have been shocked. After James de Burley won on Chase debut by half the track, if you said that the horse wouldn't have landed a blow and dropped out the back of the television at Fairyhouse last time out, you'd have been shocked. Sir Gerhard, again, jumped like a fridge freezer on debut and got away with it, was found out, went up to 3 miles at Cheltenham, where, again, his jumping wasn't good enough. The consensus on the back of that was he didn't stay the 3 miles either. So they dropped him back to 2.5 at Fairyhouse. And then he kind of looked outpaced and stayed on. Now they're back up to 3 miles again. So it's an absolute rogues gallery in many respects, for all that they are very high-class individuals. So Appreciate It, so I say, now goes up to 3 miles. And again, I'm not privy to the jockey politics arrangements here, but you'd imagine Paul Townend had an open book to pick who he was going to ride. Avoids Sir Gerhard to stick with Appreciate It, who goes up to the 3 miles for the first time since his point-to-point days. Tongue time for the first time. All a bit of a head-scratcher. I mean, Sir Gerhard has awful form at the Punchestown Festival. That is something to bear in mind. So I don't know whether that has swayed Paul's thinking in that respect. But, he was turned over, wasn't he? His 4-7 favourite last year when Mighty Potter beat him. And then he was odds-on favourite in the bumper here 2 years ago. When he was beaten. So just something to bear in mind. So, I think this holds about all of them. James de Burley, interesting up to 3 miles, but not for me. I'm with Journey with Me here, who I just think's got the better prep. As I said, this is, I spoke earlier about afterthoughts and long battles and long seasons, and Henry de Bromhead, Robbie Power, of course, speaking on behalf, Henry de Bromhead said, look, we're going to avoid Cheltenham. And we'll look for some back-end targets. So Punchestown probably will be the aim. So I think they've had this race in mind for quite a while. As I said, with Appreciate It and Sir Gerhard, especially, it very much feels like we're just trying to find a way to get the horse back in the winner's enclosure. And so I think Journey with Me is going to have the perfect prep for this one too. His last 3 starts, Of course, the feat sandwiched in between them was when beaten half a length by Impervious. And that form, she had significant boost when she jumped superbly to win the mare's race, the mare's chase at the Cheltenham Festival. And I think Journey with Me, the solid one, and I think will improve going up to a proper staying trip. It looked as though stamina was very much the trump card when winning on deep ground at Naas last time out, and the same again. Funny enough, in defeat against Impervious, I thought over an extra half a mile would have returned the form with Cole Murphy's mare there. So yeah, I like Journey with Me, the fresher campaign. I think we targeted at this for some time. Ground will be absolutely fine. I do think going 3 miles for the first time over fences will be of real benefit. As I had the one start over 3 miles. Funny enough, was at this meeting a year ago. When trailing in, beating about 40 odd lengths over hurdles, but that was on the back of taking a really nasty fall at the Cheltenham Festival, dotted up on the only previous start over 3 miles in a point to point. So Journey with Me would be the one for me, because there are just huge question marks about a lot of these. So it'd be remiss of me if I didn't touch on Classic Getaway, who is a little bit of an unknown quantity, proper Jekyll and Hyde kind of profile to this horse. Won a maiden hurdle at Punchestown last year, and then it went totally west, didn't it, when pulled up in the Albert Bartlett, and then was last seen last November beating Manila Kakuna, which form in itself isn't all that good. Then had a setback, now comes here after 150 days off. So a little bit of guesswork as to what we've really got with Classic Getaway here, and I suppose the market close to the off will be the best guide here. But yeah, Journey with Me to spoil the Willie Martin's Rogue Gallery would be the way I'd phrase it.
Journey with Me, 11-4 favourite here with Unibet there in the 6:35. Anything to add in those races without any prices? Anything you've seen?
No, absolutely nothing in the 6 o'clock, the 7:10 or the 7:45. Powder dry very much for those.
Great. Well, let's say farewell, and then we can get on to day 2 in just a second. But thank you very much to Ed for sharing his tips and insight with us ahead of day 1 at the Punchestown Festival. And thank you to our sponsors, Unibet on the Oddschecker Betting Show. Loads of offers they've got. As I say, if you're a new customer, you can sign up, click on the link below. Money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses. Surely it won't know if you follow Ed in. And £10 casino bonus as well. Extra place races available across the whole festival, including the 3:40, the 4:50, the 6 o'clock and the 7:45 on Tuesday, and boosting the price of the faivorite from 3 o'clock on the day of racing and the 4:15, 5:25, 6:35 and 7:10. Make sure you subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find all of the Oddschecker betting shows. We're doing one for every day of the festival this week, so check that out there. We're going to record day 2 now, so make sure you head over and watch that. But hopefully a couple of winners in there. Please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.